Imagine this. The sun is falling over the iconic blue clay of the Caja Magica, yes, blue, because Madrid has never been afraid to be different. A packed stadium buzzes with that specific pre-holiday energy, the kind where people aren't just watching tennis but feel like they're part of something. Flags wave, cameras flash from every angle. The atmosphere is electric not because this is a final or a semi-final, but because this is Madrid, where passion for tennis runs so deep it sometimes forgets there are other sports. Now shift your focus to the center of it all. Standing near the net, still catching her breath from the last point, is a young rising star from the Philippines, Alex Eala, calm, composed, focused in that particular way she has where her face gives away almost nothing. She has just finished her match, and like every professional athlete on tour, she walks toward the on-court interviewer. It's a routine moment, something players go through dozens of times a season. Nothing unusual, nothing unexpected. At least that's what everyone thinks. The interviewer smiles, holding the microphone with the practiced ease of someone who has done this 1,000 times. He begins speaking, but not in English, in Spanish, fast, fluid, the way locals speak when they're not thinking about simplifying their words for an international audience. Now here's the thing, this is where most international players pause. They smile politely, maybe laugh a little, and wait for the translator to step in. It's the usual pattern. Fans have seen it hundreds of times before, a small gap in the flow, a brief reminder that tennis is a global sport and not everyone speaks every language. So naturally the crowd expects the same. All eyes turn toward Alex, waiting, watching, anticipating that familiar moment of hesitation. But then something completely unexpected happens. Alex doesn't hesitate, not for a second. She doesn't look confused, she doesn't glance off stage for help, she doesn't do that little half laugh that says "I wish I understood you." Instead, she leans slightly toward the microphone and begins to speak. In Spanish, fluent, clear, confident, and instantly the entire energy of the stadium changes. At first there is silence, not the comfortable silence of a crowd settling in, but the sharp silence of a crowd trying to process what they are hearing. Did she really just respond in Spanish, and not just simple words yes, no, thank you, but full sentences? Smooth pronunciation, natural rhythm, it doesn't sound rehearsed, it doesn't sound forced, it sounds real, authentic, like someone who truly understands the language not as a party trick but as a second skin. And then the reaction hits. Gasps ripple through the audience, people look at each other in disbelief, eyebrows raised, mouths slightly open. Some fans smile wide, the kind of smile that starts small and then grows uncontrollably. Others shake their heads slowly as if to say, "I can't believe what I'm hearing." Asterisk. And within seconds that stunned silence explodes into cheers. Loud, passionate, unstoppable. Because what they just witnessed wasn't ordinary, it wasn't expected, it wasn't even common, this was something rare. A young Filipino tennis player, barely 20 years old, standing in the middle of one of Spain's most important tournaments, speaking Spanish like she belongs right there. Not like a tourist, not like a student, like someone who has lived inside the language long enough to forget she ever learned it. And in that exact moment, Alex Eala stopped being just another international competitor. She became something more, someone the crowd could relate to, someone they could connect with, someone who understood them not just through the game of tennis but through their own language, their own rhythms, their own way of seeing the world. That connection is powerful because language is more than just words, it's emotion, it's culture, it's identity. And Alex just tapped into all of it effortlessly. This wasn't memorized textbook Spanish. This wasn't a practice response prepared backstage by a well-meaning publicist. This was natural, fluent, almost instinctive. You could see it on her face too, the calm confidence, the ease, the comfort, like she had done this 1,000 times before. As the cheers continued to echo around the stadium, one thing became crystal clear to everyone watching. They weren't just witnessing a tennis interview anymore. They were witnessing a moment that surprises, a moment that inspires, a moment that connects an athlete to an entire nation in seconds. Because in a sport where performance usually speaks the loudest, where results are supposed to do all the talking, today it wasn't the racket, it wasn't the scoreline. It wasn't even the match she had just played, it was her voice. And just like that, Madrid wasn't just watching Alex Eala anymore, Madrid was listening. Now you might be wondering, how did she do it? How does a Filipino tennis star step onto one of Spain's biggest stages and speak the language like she's been part of it her whole life? This is where the story gets even more interesting. Because Alex Eala didn't just wake up one day and suddenly become fluent in Spanish. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a short-term effort. This was years in the making, woven into the very fabric of her journey. You see, Spain isn't just another stop on her tennis calendar. It's her second home. From a young age, Alex made a life-changing decision to train in Spain, far away from everything familiar. A new country, a new environment, new challenges, and most importantly, a completely different language. Imagine being that young, 13 years old, still figuring out who you are, and stepping into a place where everything from street signs to conversations around you is in Spanish. At first, it is overwhelming. You don't understand half of what people say, you struggle to express yourself, you feel like an outsider even when people are kind to you. But instead of stepping back, Alex leaned in. She listened carefully, she observed, she learned not just from books or classes but from real life, from daily conversations with teammates, from coaches who didn't speak English, from the woman at the market who sold her fruit every morning, from the small, unavoidable immersion that happens when you live somewhere long enough to stop noticing you're living there. Here is the key difference: she didn't treat Spanish like a subject to study, she treated it like a way to connect. Learning a language from textbooks gives you knowledge, but living inside that language gives you understanding. And that's exactly what happened with Alex. She experienced Spain in its purest form: the culture, the traditions, the small everyday moments that most tourists never see, walking through local streets, hearing conversations in cafes, sharing meals with friends. Laughing, learning, growing. All in Spanish. She didn't just translate words, she absorbed emotions. Over time, something powerful happened. Spanish stopped feeling like a foreign language, it became natural, instinctive, a part of who she is. That's why during the interview at the Madrid Open her response didn't feel forced. There was no pause, no overthinking, no silent panic as she searched for the right word, because for her those words were already there, ready, comfortable, real. When she has said it herself, Spain feels like home, it wasn't just a polite statement for the cameras. It was a reflection of everything she had experienced, everything she had built, everything she had become, because home isn't just about where you are born, it is about where you grow, where you learn, where you feel accepted, where you belong. And Alex found that in Spain. So when she speaks Spanish, she's not trying to impress anyone, she's not trying to prove a point. She is simply expressing a part of herself. That is why it feels different. That is why it feels genuine. Because when a place truly becomes your home, you don't just learn its language, you live it, you breathe it, you feel it. And in that moment on the court, Alex Eala wasn't just speaking Spanish. She was speaking from experience, from connection, from belonging, and that is something no textbook in the world can teach. Now let's talk about the crowd, because what happened next was even more powerful than the moment itself. The second Alex started speaking Spanish, something shifted, not just in sound but in feeling. At first it was subtle, a pause, a shared glance between fans, a quiet realization spreading through the stands like a whispered secret: wait, she speaks like us. And in a place like Madrid where passion runs deep and identity matters, that realization carries weight. Because here's the truth: tennis fans don't just watch matches, they feel them, they connect with players, they adopt them. They turn athletes into their own. In that exact moment, Alex stopped being the visiting player from the Philippines. She became something else, someone closer, someone familiar. The energy in the stadium didn't just rise, it transformed. Cheers became louder, applause became stronger. Every reaction felt more personal, more emotional. Because now the crowd wasn't just supporting a talented athlete, they were supporting someone who understood them. Someone who spoke their language, not just with words but with confidence and authenticity. That kind of connection is powerful. It turns admiration into affection, respect into loyalty, interest into full-blown support. You could see it everywhere: fans leaning forward, fully engaged, smiles spreading across faces, people nodding in appreciation, the way you nod when someone surprises you in the best possible way. It felt less like a formal interview and more like a conversation between one of their own and the crowd. But the story didn't stop inside the stadium, because what happened next took things to a whole new level. Spanish media picked up the moment almost instantly. Major sports outlets like Marca and AS, publications that don't hand out praise lightly, began writing about her. Not just her performance, not just her draw or her ranking, but her identity. And then came the nickname: unexpected, powerful, memorable, La Filipina Española, the Filipina Spaniard. Think about that for a second. That is not just a catchy headline. That is a statement, a recognition, a symbol of belonging. Nicknames like that aren't given easily, especially in a country so proud of its culture, so protective of its identity. It means she didn't just impress them. She resonated with them deeply, genuinely, memorably. The nickname is about more than speaking Spanish. It is about sounding like you belong. It is about feeling familiar in a place that wasn't originally yours. It is about bridging two worlds, her Filipino roots and her Spanish journey, into one identity. And then came the most surprising detail of all. People started noticing her accent, not just praising it but analyzing it, the way language lovers do when they encounter something unusual. And what they said was incredible. They didn't say she sounded like a student. They didn't say she sounded like a foreigner trying her best, making charming mistakes. They said she sounded like someone from Mallorca, a local, natural, effortless. If you know anything about language and accents, you know how rare that is. Accents are stubborn. They carry years of habits, influences, and unconscious identity. You can learn vocabulary, you can master grammar, you can even learn to think in another language. But sounding like a local, not just understandable but native, that is a completely different level. It requires not just study but immersion. Not just practice but years of living inside the music of a place until it rewires your mouth. Somehow Alex Eala reached that level, not through shortcuts, not through imitation, through real experience, through living, training, and growing in Spain. The crowd in Madrid understood that. They weren't just excited, they were respectful, because they recognized something important. This wasn't someone pretending to be part of their culture for a few minutes of goodwill. This was someone who had truly embraced it, and in return, Madrid embraced her right back. Then came the moment that changed everything. Not a powerful forehand, not a match-winning point, not a dramatic comeback, something far simpler and somehow far more powerful. A short clip just a few seconds long. No dramatic background music, no special effects. Just Alex Eala standing near the stands at the Madrid Open after one of her matches. Fans all around her, phones raised, voices calling her name, a small sea of Filipino flags mixed with Spanish ones. In the middle of it all, she stops. She turns toward the crowd. She makes eye contact, not the quick, scanning eye contact of someone fulfilling an obligation, but real eye contact, person by person. She smiles, not the polite, practiced smile of an athlete going through the motions. A genuine, warm, real smile, the kind that reaches her eyes. And then she says just one word, gracias. That's it, one word, simple, common, something millions of people say every single day. But this felt different, not because of the word itself, but because of everything behind it. The tone in her voice, soft, almost surprised, as if she still couldn't quite believe the reception she was receiving. The softness in her expression, not guarded, not performative, just present. The sincerity in that single moment which you could feel even through a screen. She wasn't saying it out of habit. She wasn't saying it because her coach told her to. She wasn't saying it because she had to check a box labeled asterisk fan engagement. She was saying it because she meant it, because she truly appreciated the love, the support, the energy that Madrid had given her, and somehow that honesty translated instantly, unmistakably through the camera lens. Within minutes, the clip started spreading. At first, just among tennis fans, the kind of people who follow the tour closely enough to know who Alex is. Then across sports pages where editors realized this was something worth sharing beyond the usual highlights. Then beyond sports entirely, into the wild, unpredictable ecosystem of social media, where anything can go viral for reasons no algorithm can fully predict. Hours later, it was everywhere, on Instagram Reels, on feeds, on Twitter timelines. People started sharing it again and again, not because it was flashy or dramatic, but because it felt real. And in today's world where everything is edited, filtered, staged, and sometimes completely manufactured, real moments stand out like flares in the dark. Suddenly, people who had never watched her play before knew her name. People who had no connection to tennis felt connected to. Why? Because this moment wasn't about rankings or statistics. It wasn't about wins or losses or grand slam draws. It was about emotion, connection, humanity. The comments poured in, I don't even follow tennis, but I love her energy. That smile feels so genuine. She respects the fans. This is rare. More athletes should be like this. And just like that, Alex became more than an athlete. She became a moment people wanted to be part of, a story people wanted to share, a person people wanted to root for even if they didn't understand the difference between a backhand slice and a topspin lob. Because deep down, everyone understands gratitude, everyone understands connection, and everyone appreciates authenticity. That is what made this clip powerful, not the length, not the setting, not the production value, the feeling. Here is the bigger picture. Sports has always been about competition, about winning, about proving who is the best on a given day, on a given surface, in front of a given crowd. But moments like this remind us of something deeper, that sports can also unite people across countries, across languages, across cultures. That one, no barrier, no distance, no difference, just a shared human experience. In that moment, Alex didn't just represent the Philippines, she didn't just connect with Spain. She brought two worlds together. She showed how a simple act of appreciation can cross borders, how one genuine moment can reach millions, how one voice can make people feel seen, valued, and connected, not because of what that voice says, but because of how it says it. That is why this clip didn't just go viral, it stayed with people. Long after the video ended, the feeling remained. So what does this all mean? What are we really witnessing here? Because if you look closely, this story is bigger than a viral clip, bigger than a post-match interview, bigger than even the Madrid Open itself. This is the rise of a different kind of star. Yes, Alex is talented. There is no doubt about that. Her game is sharp, a lefty game built on the kind of clay court foundations that produce champions. Her focus is strong. Her discipline is world-class, forged through 5 years at the academy where they don't just teach tennis but an entire philosophy of resilience. She is climbing the rankings, facing tougher opponents each month, and proving she belongs on the biggest stages in tennis. But here is the truth. Talent alone does not make you unforgettable. There are many great players, many rising stars, many athletes with skill, power, and technique refined over thousands of hours. but very few have something more, something that goes beyond the scoreboard, beyond the highlight reel, beyond the cold numbers of wins and losses. That is exactly what Alex brings, because what makes her special is not just how she plays the game but how she connects with people while playing it. Her humility stands out. Even in moments of attention and praise, and there have been more of those lately, she remains grounded. There is no arrogance in her posture, no distance in her answers, no sense that she believes she has already arrived. She speaks about her opponents with respect, her coaches with gratitude, her fans with genuine warmth. In a sport that can sometimes reward cold efficiency, she chooses warmth instead. Then there is her openness, her willingness to fully embrace another culture, not halfway, not on the surface, not just for the cameras, but completely. She didn't just visit Spain. She became part of it, she respected it, she understood it, she lived it, and that is something people can feel instantly. Because let's be honest, anyone can learn a few phrases in another language. Anyone can memorize a polite response. Anyone can smile and wave and try to impress. But not everyone can make an entire crowd feel like you are one of. That takes something deeper, something real. And that is exactly what she did in Madrid. In a sport where players often rely only on performance, where success is measured in points, sets, and trophies, Alex added something rare, something unforgettable. Personality, connection, humanity, and those three things last longer than any match result. Because years from now, people might forget who she played that day. They might even forget the stage of the tournament, but they won't forget this moment, the moment she spoke, the moment she connected. The moment she turned a stadium full of strangers into supporters, into believers, into fans. Moments like that do not just fade away, they stay. They become part of a bigger story, a story of a young Filipino athlete who didn't just travel the world to compete but to belong, to find home in more than one place, to carry two flags in her heart without feeling torn between them. And maybe, just maybe, this is only the beginning. Because if she can create this kind of impact already at this stage of her career, still climbing, still learning, still adding layers to her game, imagine what lies ahead. Bigger tournaments, bigger crowds, bigger moments, the French Open where her clay court education will face its most famous test, Wimbledon where the grass will ask different questions, the US Open where the night sessions turn players into legends. If she continues to carry this same authenticity, this same connection, this same energy, then she won't just win matches. She will win hearts everywhere she goes, and that is when something truly special happens, because the world does not just watch stars like that, the world supports them, the world believes in them, the world roots for them loudly, passionately, across every time zone and language barrier. Right now, that is exactly what is happening with Alex. She is no longer just a promising player, she is becoming a global story, a symbol of connection. A reminder that greatness isn't just about what you achieve, the trophies, the rankings, the prize money, but about how you make people feel along the way. If this moment in Madrid taught us anything, it is this: her journey is not just about tennis anymore, it is about impact, and the world, it turns out, is more than ready for it, ready to listen, ready to cheer, ready to say in whatever language they speak, thank you right back.